Hi, I'm Meg Faure and welcome to our bi-monthly vlog live on the Checkers Baby page. Today we're going to be talking about the hot topic of colic. That's uncontrollable crying that occurs in the first 3 months of life. Now traditionally, if you have a look it up in the dictionary, you'll find that the word colic means abdominal discomfort. But what we do know is that actually colic in infants doesn't have to do with gas bubbles and allergies that would affect the tummy. It in fact has more to do with what's going on in your baby's brain. So what is colic? Well, by definition, colic is more than 3 hours of crying, 3 days of the week, for 3 weeks at a stretch. And you could add in here at under 3 months of age. And the reason you can add that in is because colic across the whole world, whether you live in Manhattan or in the Kalahari, colic is universal. Most babies start crying only at around 10 to 14 days. So that's the good news. You get a nice honeymoon or baby moon in which your baby's very calm. And then, of course, at about 10 to 14 days, your baby may start to become a little bit fussy. And for colicky babies, they cry a lot. That colic then peaks at 6 weeks and has disappeared entirely by 12 weeks. So let's have a look at what a colic curve looks like. So there's your colic curve. There you can see it starting at 2 weeks, peaking at 6 weeks, and then by 12 weeks having disappeared almost completely in most babies. So you can see that colic is something that's pretty universal and it's self-limiting. It disappears on its own. So what can you do to manage colic? Well, of course, that really would be the ultimate question. The first thing that you can do is make sure your baby doesn't become overtired. And for that, we actually have a look at our baby's awake time. And you can see that the newborn baby can only really be awake for up to 45 minutes, or up to, if you're looking for up to 16 weeks, up to about an hour and a half. So it's a very, very short period of time that your baby can be awake. Now, if you catch your baby's awake time and settle them to sleep pretty regularly and don't let them be awake for longer than an hour, you'll find that you have less colic in the evening as well. So what happens with colic is that you have this accumulation of stimulation through the day that results in more colic and crying in the evening. So if your baby doesn't have as much opportunity to become overstimulated and has those regular sleeps, they will be less likely to have colic in the evening. So the first secret is watch your baby's awake time. The second secret to limiting colic is to not let your baby become overstimulated. And I know, I'm a mum of 3, I know, of course, that the temptation is to stimulate your baby at absolutely all costs and make sure that they're very, very stimulated so they develop well. But the reality is that in the first 3 months of life, just being alive is enough stimulation. So don't overstimulate your baby. Now, before I get on to my next 3 tips for managing colic, I want you to let you know that I'm watching my Twitter account as well. And so for those of you who are on Twitter at the moment, you're welcome to ask me a question. We'll have a look at it. And if I can answer your questions for you, it'll be super during this live episode. So what is the third thing that we know that can limit colic? Well, the secret to that lies in the womb world. Let's have a look at your baby in utero. Have a look at this amazing video of this little baby. You can see that a little baby here is sucking her thumb already in utero. Can you see that little mouth going? Very sweet. So newborn babies do suck their hands, do suck their mouth, and do suck their thumb. And so sucking is one of the things that can calm a baby. Now, I'm a big fan of dummies. This is one of the quotes that I always put out there. Thank goodness for dummies, lifesavers. Don't be shy to use them. So dummies are wonderful, and I don't think that you must worry about letting your baby use a dummy or worry about getting rid of it at a later stage. All of that in good time. So really, when you're looking at dummies, you're looking at 2 different types of teats. Your first teat is your orthodontic teat, which you can see over there has got a really angled area over there. And it's nice, it collapses very nicely, this particular dummy. So you can use an orthodontic dummy. And the other type of dummy that you can use is a honey dummy or a nub dummy. So you can see that that's got more of a round curve as opposed to this one which has got more of an angle at the end. And really, if you're using a dummy, make sure that you use a dummy that your baby takes to. And I would definitely say don't worry about using dummies. I think dummies are absolutely fabulous. So that would be my third tip. So watch your baby's awake time, watch she's not overstimulated, and let your baby use a dummy. Now, what happens in that moment of absolute extreme crying? Well, what do you do to manage your baby's crying? Well, I believe very strongly in wearing your baby. So popping your baby up against your chest, up close, so that your baby can be right up against your heartbeat. And babies calm being close to their parents' heartbeat. They calm with the rhythm of your body. So use a carrier. And there's lots of different carriers. The one in that picture was a wrap carrier. You can use that. You can also use a sideways ring carrier. And over here, I've got an example of an upright carrier. And if you're going to use a this for a little baby, use it with the baby facing inwards, as per this picture over here. So you're going to use either some sort of sling or carrier in those moments when your baby's really fussing badly. And then the last tip, my fifth tip, is to swaddle your baby. And you know, the minute you reenact that womb world and put your baby back where they belong, very tightly wrapped, you're going to find that your baby's much less fractious. So swaddling can be done with anything. One of the things that I do like is to use a swaddling blanket like this with a lot of stretch. And so stretch is important, and the reason is that you're going to be able to get a more snug approach if you're able to wrap it more tightly around your baby. Now, an example, this particular swaddling blanket is a square swaddling blanket. So if you're going to get a square swaddling blanket, fold it into a triangle. Otherwise, you can get a shaped swaddling blanket. And once it's in the shape of the triangle, this is an example of how you would actually swaddle your baby. Right. Okay, so having gone that far, we've covered all of the theory behind swaddling, and we've had some nice questions coming through which I've been able to have a look at. And now I just want to go on to answer some of the questions that came up from last week's baby meetup. So for those of you who don't know, Checkers hosts a baby meetup on a Thursday, and the following Thursday we followed up with a live video blog, a live vlog. So these were some of the questions that came up last week on our baby meetup. So the question came from Charmaine van Rooyen, and she said her twins are 6 weeks old and crying a lot during the day and nothing at night. What is that all about? Well, first of all, what's happening there is her babies are probably becoming overstimulated and awake for too long periods of time. So step number one that I mentioned earlier, watching her awake times, would be what I would have a look at with those twins. At night time, her twins have not got colic because they're having long stretches of sleep in which their brain's kind of getting an off time. And so I think what's going on for her twins is that they're just having too much awake time during the day. So Charmaine, if I were you, I would have a look at watching your baby's awake times. And then the last question I'm going to have a look at comes from Hey Dean. And she said, "Hi, Meg. Sometimes my granddaughter of 2-month-old cries when she's fully fed. She's only breastfed, or she falls asleep in my arms, and as soon as we lay her down, she's awake and cries. What should we do?" Now, right at the beginning of today, I spoke about how colic and crying does not necessarily have to do with digestive problems. And in fact, the numbers are that less than 5% of criers are crying because they've got a digestive problem going on. But within that 5% comes reflux. And for some babies, reflux can be a real irritation. And what happens with those babies is when they're full, they cry more. And when you lay them down, they don't want to be horizontal for very long, so they want to come up. And so what I would be doing in that circumstance, Haydeen, is actually taking your baby to the doctor and just checking out what's going on. So that brings us to the end of today. Thank you very much for joining us. It's always wonderful to interact with you, and thank you for your questions that have come through as well. So we'll see you in 2 weeks' time on my next vlog, and next week on our baby meetup. So from me, Meg Faure, it's over and out. Thank you.